How's it going, everyone? And welcome back to another episode of Tsip Talk. I'm your host, Pete Sippis. Joining me today, he is currently in quarantine, our own bubble boy, Sean McDaniel, right across the street from me. Sean, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me.
And joining us from the Sooner State, the king of Cave Creek is back, Dillon Nageotte. Dillon, how are you?
Dude, I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic now that you're here. Tell me about what's going on in the Sooner State. Why are you in Oklahoma? And why are we recording this late? Because you've been so goddamn busy.
Well, a lot has happened in recent days. My mom and I purchased an RV, and then we decided we were going to drive to Kentucky, which is the other state I semi-live in. And along the way is Oklahoma, where the entire mom's side of the family resides. So I'm currently in my grandfather and grandma's house, and we visited my other grandma earlier, and we're recording late because I haven't seen them in 6 years.
Oh, okay. We're on Tsip Talk, one of the biggest shows in America and the Netherlands and New Zealand with your two best friends. But sure, you haven't seen family in 6 years, so I have to go talk to them.
Let me tell you my priorities, Pete. It goes God, guns, family, Tsip Talk.
I mean,
that is unironic. There is no irony there.
I mean, look, I'm trying to crack that top three.
Well, good luck. I mean, soon enough, technically what you could do is become family. Now, that has to be by law for it to count, but then you would technically be in the top three, hence adding Tsip Talk to the top three.
So who in your family would I need to legally make my partner in life and the show?
Well, my brother already wears a promise ring, so he's probably gone. But my sister, who is 27, is recently single, so or me, Pete. That would be my favorite option, me.
I like both options.
Well, one of them is better, but sure.
I'm not going to tell you which one. What a great start. What a great start to an episode. Me hypothetically marrying your sister. So this show will have priorities.
Why are you going back to that one? Did you not hear me on the other option?
No, I heard you.
Oh, okay.
But while we're on the topic of Oklahoma, I've been waiting to play this game. I've been waiting to find an excuse to play this game. It is a game that we like to call States That Are Worse Than Oklahoma. So here's how the game works. We're going to go around the room. We're going to say a state, and then we have to debate, is it worse than Oklahoma? Now, you may be asking, why aren't we playing states that are better than Oklahoma? Well, that'll just take too goddamn long because I think there's at least 40. So I'm going to get the ball rolling with a tough one. With one I was definitely kind of going back and forth. The neighbor to the east, Arkansas. Is Arkansas worse than Oklahoma?
The issue with this game is I'm biased because I do have family here, and so I actually know some things about this state. Whereas Arkansas, I know that it has the word Kansas in it, and that is about the extent of my knowledge. So I would argue that Oklahoma is better for me personally, but for the rest of the world, I really have no idea.
Well, so we need your background expertise to potentially, to check all biases. We're not CNN, we're not Fox News. We like to cover all angles of these bold claims that we make. Now, lucky for you, I've been to Oklahoma and I've been to Arkansas on the same day, as a matter of fact. When I drove from terrible. When I drove from Amarillo, Texas to Nashville, Tennessee. That was horrible. Both states are, I personally think, just god-awful. But so here's what I'm debating. Here are the aspects that I found in each state. When I was in Oklahoma, every time we stopped to get gas or snacks or whatever, I did not see one person smile in the entire state.
Dude, that's because they're all terrified for their lives because of tornadoes.
They
They live in constant fear, and they can't even think about what's happening in the world around them. The only thing on their minds is where is the nearest bunker, because as soon as those alarms sound, everyone just knows what to do. But that's the extent of knowledge in all areas of life.
Okay, so not making a great case for Oklahoma because I didn't even
No,
get to
I think that's a
tornadoes
good
yet.
thing. They're prepared.
I mean, sure. Okay. If you think tornadoes are an asset to their case, then by all means. But now, I've been to Arkansas. Here's why Arkansas leaves a bad taste in my mouth and just a hole in my heart. When we were in Arkansas, we stopped at a Walmart because I wanted some Razorbacks gear. And I have
Was that not Milano's? Okay.
We're getting to that.
Oh, okay. I feel like there's about to be some childhood trauma in this story too.
No,
Do I have to be emotionally available?
Not really trauma, but here's what happened. Because here's what you need to know. I was 16 at the time. Me, Xander, and our good friend were doing a road trip across the country. And I had started an SEC tank top collection. And so I wanted to check off Arkansas. So I'm like, let me get an Arkansas tank top.
As one does.
Obviously, when they are outside in Little Rock at a super Walmart. That could
Dude,
be the mother of all Walmarts.
Single-handedly the closest I've ever come to hating your absolute guts.
So we had like Xander's like debit card, and our parents gave us money for the trip. We had maybe like 4 days left on this trip, and I get the tank top. It was $10. We then go to the McDonald's that's inside the Walmart, and my brother's like, I'm gonna get some French fries or a burger or something, and the debit card gets declined because we were out of money. Because I spent the last of our money on an Arkansas tank top. So the phone call we had to make, and our mom said, "Where are you guys? And you don't have any money." And we said, "We're at a McDonald's in a Walmart in Little Rock, Arkansas." That is the pain that Arkansas brings me, because I think back to that. But there was a plus side. That same day, we were driving. We're getting close to the Tennessee border. I'm in the back seat. I have my headphones in, and I'm listening to T.I. And one of the songs was T.I. mentioning one of his stints in prison, and he mentions Forest City, Arkansas, which is where he spent time in prison. And so, out of nowhere in the back seat, I say to my brother and my friend, "Hey, are we near Forest City?" And they're like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Are we near Forest City?" And they said, "We're about an hour away." To which I said, "Okay, go on Google Maps and find where this prison is." And they're like, "Why?" I'm like, "Just find it for me." So they put in Google Maps, and they're just like, "Yeah, it's like 2 minutes off the highway." I'm like, "Okay, we're going to stop outside this prison." And I had to explain that is where T.I. Spent one of his stints in prison, and after that prison experience, wrote one of my favorite albums. So I'm like,
He was trying to figure out ways on how to get stuck in there. He was like, what could I do in Arkansas that could get me locked up where T.I. once was?
No, based on interviews and songs, I don't want to be in that prison. But yeah, so then I made...
Well, if you heard the songs, you were practically there already.
I made Xander pull over on a side road so I could take a photo from a distance and not legally in trouble of this prison. And then we went to Tennessee, stopped in Mississippi for a quick sec. That's what unbelievable. I've been to Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Mississippi all in one day.
Wow. And you started in Texas?
Yeah, start in Amarillo, Texas.
Well, we went through Amarillo. I think it was yesterday, and I mean, I'm shocked that you decided to stop there. I'll say that, but
well, Well, we drove Phoenix to Amarillo because we don't have grandparents in Oklahoma.
Well, that's your loss. I'll say that.
Did you guys take
But
I-40?
oh yeah,
I've been on
first time
I-40.
ever too. Well, I shouldn't say
Those are
first time ever, but first time I remember.
I went on I-40 twice within a calendar year span. That's too
Oh,
many
wow.
times to be on I-40. Oh my God.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
did you guys stop in Klein's Corners, New Mexico?
We stopped in. Well, we actually set up the RV in Santa Rosa, New Mexico, but we did not stop before that, other than just to make like a sandwich or whatever. We didn't really go out and see much.
Oh no, there's nothing to see. It's all meth labs and tumbleweed. But
Well, that kind of felt like the whole vibe of New Mexico. I'll be honest.
other than Santa Fe, yeah, that's it. But back to the conversation we're having, states that are worse than Oklahoma, Arkansas. It's a tough one for me because I went through all the stats and looked at educational attainment. I looked at life expectancy. I looked at public health. I looked at all these things. And they're pretty much tied, like near the bottom for everything. So I'm going to go and say that Arkansas is worse than Oklahoma. I know they have the Northwest and the parks and all that and the diamonds and whatever, but just based on just some of the stats, they were close, but they're like a little bit less than Oklahoma. And as awful as Oklahoma City is, and it's not the first time I've ripped on Oklahoma City, Celtics writer for The Athletic, Jared Weiss, said he'd rather die on a golf course than go to Oklahoma City. I'm going to say that even though I have not been to Little Rock is probably worse. So, Sean, do you have an opinion on this? Do you think Arkansas is worse than Oklahoma?
I have no knowledge about either of these states. So no, I don't have an opinion.
Like I said, I can't really speak for Arkansas, but what I can say is that OU is a dope campus, and Sooners football is obviously a big deal here and super fun to watch, even though, I went to U of A and have never lived in Oklahoma a day in my life. But I've had a lot of good experiences here, and as much as it's like funny to like say that there's no other reason to come here other than family, like it's a fun state to come visit. And like I said, I haven't been to Arkansas, but I will experience Memphis tomorrow, I guess. So that'll be the closest thing I have to any experience in Arkansas.
You're taking the same route I took. Let me tell you, I know what rest stop you're going to go through. There might not be an old guy with no teeth saying, "Hoo-hoo, what you boys doing? Oh my God, you're only 16. You're huge." It's a real thing that happened.
There's the childhood trauma I forewarned about.
Yeah, maybe that was it. You'll probably see the prison in Forest City from the highway. Like I'm getting you prepared for this.
Here's the difference between you and I. I would have literally no clue that I was passing a prison that T.I. once resided in, and you took a picture outside of it. So there's our key differences in personality traits.
But now you know.
I do know. I still probably will refuse to see it or even acknowledge that it exists now. But
no,
sure.
You're gonna see it because there's literally gonna be nothing, and there's going to be a giant gray box. And I know Mrs. Nageotte's gonna be like, "Oh, what's that? Is that a prison?" And you're just gonna go, "Yeah, that's the prison that T.I. was in."
No,
you're not gonna have a choice.
I'm gonna tell her that that's Northeastern and that's where you went to school.
Well, if we're on the topic of schools, you brought up Sooners football.
Yep.
But to counter that, may I bring up Oklahoma State football?
I would never. I actually almost went to OU. I think that the general consensus here, as far as I'm aware, is that if you can go to OU, why would you ever go to OSU? And so that was never even on my mind. I've never
that's what I'm
visited
talking
never
about.
Seen it.
Well, we're saying, is Arkansas worse than Oklahoma? And you say OU is an asset to Oklahoma. What I'm saying is Oklahoma State is a clear liability because you bring up OU football, and I like to point out that, yes, Oklahoma has that, but they also have Mike Gundy.
Well, to be fair, like I said, I have no knowledge. So for all I know, Arkansas could be full of OSUs. Who knows?
You know what? It might be concerning that Brett Bielema was a Razorbacks coach at one point. I don't know enough about Arkansas State, even though they're in Jonesboro, the Red Wolves, and you have Central Arkansas and Conway, the Bears.
Yes, all of those.
Hey, pride of the Southland Conference. So I'm gonna say that Arkansas is worse than Oklahoma, just so we can move on to the next state. Dillon, give me a state that you think is worse than Oklahoma.
Well, it depends what you're talking about, because I could bring up a lot of, Midwest states that are just flyovers that you could just debate that they're kind of similar. But I'm gonna bring up one that I feel like everyone's general consensus is that it sucks, and that's Florida.
Yes.
It might have beaches, but it has everything else is just tragic.
I don't think I can put Florida below Oklahoma.
Wow.
I really can't. I think that, yes, it's Florida. Yes, there's Tallahassee. Yes, Florida State University doesn't know how percentages work. When you say, well, we have 20,000 people in an 80,000 seat stadium, but you don't spread them out through the whole stadium. You only use like 60,000 seats, which then doesn't make it 25% capacity because they don't do math because it's Florida State and I hate them. They're the ASU of the East is what Sean once told me, and that's so accurate. And I can't stand Tallahassee as a city, and I hate FSU. But I don't think I can put the whole state of Florida below Oklahoma. It is home to the Dan Le Batard Show with Stu Gatz. It is the home of the one and only Greg Cody, as well as Juju Gotti. So,
I bring up Florida because I would argue that although the beaches are a redeeming factor, Oklahoma kind of has that Southern hospitality mindset in my mind.
It did not have Southern hospitality. No one smiled. I stopped at Love's and all I got was frowns. Just smiled once.
You stopped at a truck stop. No one there even lives in Oklahoma. That is not a fair judgment. When you actually go into because I'm currently in Norman, when you actually go to the stores, it's not like everyone's showering you in kindness, but people, it's better than Arizona in my opinion.
That's a low. That's a low bar. That's a low bar.
Okay, you were raised in Boston. Don't talk to me about low bars.
I was not raised in Boston. I was raised outside of Boston, and you know what? We get a bad rap. We're not that much.
Yeah, because you guys suck.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Wait, I'm sorry. Ignore states. Ignore states. Just Boston alone is probably at the bottom. Do you want to? Do you
really want to go here? Do you really want to go here?
I would rather live in Tucson. You moved away. You moved across the country to live in Tucson because it's so bad there, Pete. Your actions speak louder than your words.
No. I love Tucson because I love the weather. I love the school. I love the people. But at the end of the day, Boston is still the most educated city in the country. It has the best universities. It's one of the most desirable places to live. Like Massachusetts is at the top of life expectancy, public health, and education. Like Boston's one of the most desirable cities. That's why you have all these companies who are headquartered in Boston.
No,
I knew one of you was going to
live in Boston.
Everyone decides to live in Boston. Are you kidding me?
Desires. No one desires Boston.
Of course they do. What are you talking about?
Oh my God, you are tweaking on
some bias.
People
move around the world to live in Boston.
We're not CNN or Fox, and then you can't give up the fact that Boston is trash. I don't even want to visit there.
What are you talking about? We won the revolution. There wouldn't be a country if it wasn't for us.
Dude, Pete can't argue for his city or state without bringing up something that happened centuries ago.
Okay, Oklahoma is where the racist presidents
we
sends
dumped
the
some
Native
tea,
Americans.
Dude, we dumped some tea. Everyone loves it here. Shut up.
No
dude.
Taxation without representation. No, let me tell you something, okay? the racist presidents in the 1800s sent all the Native Americans to Oklahoma because they got together and said, "We're
Yeah, there's
racist.
diversity
Where's the
here. What can you say
shittiest
about
places?"
Boston?
Boston's kind of diverse.
No, don't.
We're more diverse than
don't even
Oklahoma.
try.
We're more diverse than
You're-
Oklahoma. Are you kidding me? No, okay, no. Look, I love Tucson, but you cannot say that Boston's an awful city considering that it's leading in.
You
so
couldn't get
many-
out of there fast enough.
because
You
it's
were-
cold. It's
you
fucking
were
freezing. I'm like Kawhi leaving Toronto. I'm cold.
Dude, you have to account for the fact that Oklahoma weather, aside from tornadoes,
Aside from that's a big part.
it's really not, because your snowstorms and gray living and rain and just constant dreariness is so much more frequent than a little tornado
dreariness?
that
How do
everyone
you-
has
wait,
accounted for.
What do you mean constant dreariness? It's literally
dude,
it's
You want
it's
to talk
snow
about
for a few
never
months.
seeing a
I hate
smile?
snow.
Meet anyone on the East Coast, they have a reputation for being a-holes. There is a whole thing that just, I don't know if it's the weather or just the fact that you live there
It's the
most of
weather.
the time, but everyone there sucks.
I will give you this. A lot of people in Boston and the Boston area are assholes. They
And
are.
angry.
Yes.
They're angry, they're assholes, and they're arrogant. But the arrogant does come with some good reasons because it's hard not to be arrogant when you have all these nice things.
Oh my god.
I'd like to
Dude,
point out
you don't even have like good on ramps for the freeway. You were bringing that up in Cave Creek. You're like, wow, these are amazing.
okay, yes, the highways are horrifying, but that's because we've already had shit. Here's the thing with like Cave Creek is that like Arizona, they built the roads, then they built the stuff. We had stuff before roads were invented. So like we can't make
Yeah, why would you
8-lane
wanna live in a
highways.
place like
But
that?
you know what? You know why we don't
No.
build 8-lane highways? Because we have public transportation, so we're not polluting the air with all the cars. Like those big gas guzzlers I see in Phoenix and in Oklahoma. Does our public transportation derail more than it should? Maybe. But you know what?
Okay, I need to
Saving the
reorder my
environment.
priorities list. Is now gone God, guns, family, trucks, then Tsip Talk.
We just got demoted before trucks. Shit.
Yeah, the gas guzzlers are now above this show.
Sean, give me a state.
I'm gonna go with South Dakota.
Ooh.
South Dakota. I don't know. I was browsing through Twitter the other day, and then I saw South Dakota trending. And like, so here's what this says when you search South Dakota on Twitter. Breaking: the South Dakota Attorney General reported hitting a deer Saturday night, but had accidentally hit and killed a man whose body wasn't discovered until the next morning. According to the Department of Public Safety, there will be, whatever. But if you just look at the picture of this guy, he is the most South Dakota-looking person I have ever seen. It's a very specific look. It just screams South Dakota Attorney General.
He was also drunk when he killed the person.
That's
right?
true. Yeah, like
I just want to say, if there's a state where I can commit homicide and just claim I hit a deer and maybe get away with it, that might put it above Oklahoma.
That's a very good point. Like, I immediately was gonna say, well, you have the Black Hills, you have Mount Rushmore, but I mean, honestly, our president kind of ruined Mount Rushmore for me.
Yeah, I think Mount Rushmore is a big negative now.
Yeah, here's the thing about Mount Rushmore. Like, it was built on sacred land, and like that's not good, and like it should be taken down.
Yes, sir. That is exactly right. That is not good. Let's go, Sean.
It should be taken down.
Let's build another mountain in front of it.
Yes.
An even bigger mountain.
Yeah, one with faces that were naturally made by us building it.
You're making a case with South Dakota because I was looking through all the stats, and public health, they're down there with Oklahoma. Educational attainment, they're way down there. Life expectancy, they're way down there. I've never been to South Dakota. It's one of the states I have not been to, and I'm honestly torn by this. I think that last year South Dakota was better than Oklahoma, but you had their governor who just didn't care about COVID, didn't want to do mask mandates, were making people in meat processing plants work, even though those processing plants had 100 cases of COVID. But she said our like agricultural and like meat economy is worth more than the lives of my own citizens. They had their annual motorcycle rally that wasn't canceled because of COVID, and they're now just getting slammed with cases. And then you had their attorney general drunk driving, hit and run, and saying it was a deer. I'm going to say that South Dakota is worse than Oklahoma. Can
Yes.
I get an agreement on this? I got agreement with Sean.
100%.
I will bring this up in defense of, technically you could say it's in defense of both places, because I think one thing you have to consider, even though it's maybe cheating, is relative closeness to other cool things, even if it's outside of the state. So South Dakota, you could probably drive, I mean, I don't really know, but you could probably get into Canada in one day.
Yeah, but that's not Dillon, Saskatchewan is not cool.
But then, you know, Oklahoma, I don't know. When you think about like from a traveling perspective, I would rather travel out of Oklahoma, especially for flights, probably because it's more central. But you can go to some pretty sick places up north from South Dakota in one day as well.
Well, that's what I was making. You have Badlands, Black Hills, Teddy Roosevelt National Park in North Dakota.
Yep.
Minneapolis isn't too far away, but I mean the idea. I mean, North Dakota is beautiful. I love North Dakota, very underrated state. But like when you start getting past like that, Canada is Manitoba and Saskatchewan, and there is nothing. And I mean nothing. I mean nothing. But I mean, it's also cold. You're
Yeah.
up there. It's cold. I don't know if they get tornadoes, but
Well, and the thing, like I said before, like any state that I can't really speak on is automatically, unless I know better, going to be below Oklahoma for me just for personal reasons, because I actually like it a lot here when I visit. So South Dakota, I agree, is worse. Arkansas, I think is worse. Florida, I've never been to. The only reason it wouldn't be worse for me is beaches. Any of these like Midwestern flyover states, I'd probably say are worse. But when I think of like actual states that I could speak on,
you've never been to Massachusetts either.
well, I know enough through people.
Who, me?
I would say that another state that's definitely worse, which we kind of talked about but glanced over, is New Mexico. New Mexico seems so much worse.
I've been to New Mexico, and I'm gonna say that Santa Fe and Taos make up for it. Santa Fe is one of my favorite cities in the United States. It is gorgeous. It is beautiful. The people there are super friendly. It is absolutely stunning. The nature around there is stunning. Taos is amazing. I'm going to say right now, it's not even close. New Mexico is infinite times better than Oklahoma. I'm sorry, Dillon. You can't judge New Mexico just by I-40. I did that first time when I drove through there. I'm like, this state sucks. But then I went back.
These same grandparents, when I was little, lived in New Mexico. And I don't doubt that New Mexico is very culturally rich and has a lot of cool stuff about it. I haven't been in big cities. I will say that, full disclosure, haven't been to the big cities. But from not just the I-40, just not city area, I mean, it literally just, I know it's an easy out to say this, but it just feels like being in Breaking Bad. It's like, wow, there really is nothing except RVs and mobile homes and desert forever.
But what I'm saying is that, like, Santa Fe, if you go to Santa Fe, you will say, like, I could honestly see myself living here. It is a gem of the United States. It's awesome. The food is incredible. The hiking around there is amazing, especially in Taos. Have you ever gone on a llama hike before?
Oh my God, what, man?
A llama hike. That sounds fun. I want to do that.
It's a ton of fun.
I've never heard of it before.
Dude, these grandparents that I'm with own llamas.
No way.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Pause on the game real quick. What?
Dude, these grandparents are awesome. They have a
Llamas or
farm.
alpacas?
Llamas.
Is your grandfather Carl Wieser?
Dude, they have a farm, and then we're at the compound right now. They own like the entire like cul-de-sac kinda. like they're the only houses in this little area, and they own everything. And then at the farm, they have a bunch of animals because they love rescuing animals, and they rescued some llamas from some random farm where they were just starving to death, and they still, yeah, they have donkeys,
did they
horses,
rescue
cows.
did they rescue Joe Exotic's tigers? Because that was also in Oklahoma.
Dude, honestly, if anyone was going to, it would have been them.
So we'll unpause the game. I'm going to say that New Mexico is better than Oklahoma. I think we can agree that Alabama and Mississippi are worse than Oklahoma. I feel like that's just kind of a given.
Yeah.
Just from what I know, yeah.
But what I'm going to say is Louisiana, because Louisiana is always bottom three.
You're really going to make me go against the home of Duck Dynasty right now? Are you kidding me?
Hang on. Well, that's what I'm saying, is that they are at the bottom of a lot of things. But I also had a Duck Dynasty phase, and you have New Orleans. So can Duck Dynasty and the entire city of New Orleans make up for the rest of that god-awful state? And I'm sorry, but Duck Dynasty took place in like Monroe, and that's not a great place either.
Louisiana has Coach O. I think that's pretty significant.
But they don't respect him enough, and here's why. Coach Orgeron did a PSA telling people to wear a mask, and that state did not listen. If Coach Orgeron is telling you to take this COVID seriously and you still choose not to take it seriously, then who are those people going to listen to? Seriously. If they're not going to listen to who might as well be a frog-throated god, then who will? Like, that's why, like, I seriously, it was heartbreaking to see that. And it's like this amazing human being with a hilarious voice and a great mind for football is telling you to put on a mask, and you won't do it. It was unbelievable to me.
I think it's perfectly believable. I know that's not what you meant, but it's really not surprising at all.
It really isn't.
Yeah.
It really isn't. But so we'll go around the room. Louisiana, home of Jazz, the Ragin' Cajuns, Duck Dynasty. Is it better or worse than Oklahoma?
I like how Ragin' Cajun is the second thing you think of when you think of Louisiana.
That's correct, yes.
Yes, Louisiana is better than Oklahoma.
Dillon?
I will give a big up because you just reminded me that Cajun fries are delicious.
Oh, Cajun food.
But again, like, I haven't been to Louisiana. I think, I love in the past a nice Duck Dynasty episode, but I don't think that's enough to carry it over Oklahoma for me. I really, really do enjoy it here. But Louisiana, I think if I visited that, so far of all the ones we've talked about, maybe New Mexico if I visited big cities, but Louisiana would be the one that I would probably be most likely to like swing on, just because there is a lot of history and interesting stuff to that state, even though it's, questionable.
All right, so let's wrap up the game and let's give Oklahoma a rank, because I said it was somewhere between 40 and 50 when we started, and I'm going to go and say Oklahoma is the 43rd best state. Sean, where do you think they rank?
I'm going to say 42nd.
And Dillon?
Okay, well, are we doing this for personal enjoyment or like actual living or as the state as a whole?
I'll give whatever you want, because I need you here, because I checked the stats. We have not had a single listen in Oklahoma yet, so I don't think anyone can get too mad at me, but you never know. So let's give it from your personal enjoyment, just so they don't try to kill me and you find my head in a back alley in Tulsa.
Well, for personal enjoyment, I can only speak on places that I have been or want to go. And in that scenario, I would probably say, I mean, family and everything, I'd put it probably around 9.
Okay. You should travel more.
I should, but when like you don't have connections here. Like the thing is like I do have, a farm with alpacas and quads and stuff that I can go to, or a compound with a lake on it to enjoy. So like my experience is probably very different from other people's, but my experience is a great one.
And that was first ever edition of States That Are Worse Than Oklahoma.